Hello, Assassins. Happy August, and welcome to another episode of the Assassin's Creed Book Club. Today we'll be covering the Assassin's Creed Volume 3 comics entitled Homecoming, and the book for August, the book assignment is going to be Assassin's Creed Last Descendants Locus. This is a comics tie-in to the Last Descendants book series. The modern day part will cover the same assassins we've been following in Last Descendants, whereas the historical side will cover Henry Green and E.B. Fry, characters, of course, from Assassin's Creed Syndicate. So it should be pretty cool. I'm excited to read it. We had a giveaway as always, and congratulations to the winners. And if you didn't win a copy, feel free to pick up a copy of the book via the Amazon affiliate link in the video description below. All right, let's dive into Homecoming. Overall, I thought it was decent. I have some major quibbles, but we'll start with the likes. First off, a lot of this is framed coming off of the Cross of War discussion, which was my least favorite book that we've read so far. Templars Volume 2, of course. And so, compared to Cross of War, I thought the pacing was actually really good. I was a little worried when they kind of split off the modern day into kind of two separate storylines, with Charlotte in the Animus, with Erudito in one story, and then Galena and the others going after Joseph as well. So you have those two parallel modern day storylines, and then the historical as well. And I was a little worried it was going to get a little convoluted or too crammed the way that Cross of War felt for me. But overall, despite this only being 4 issues, just like Cross of War, it didn't ever feel too rushed, or it never felt like they tried to be too ambitious with or complex with all the things going on. So I was able to follow all the storylines easily. I thought they did a pretty good job of balancing that all out. The next thing I really liked was the historical setting and characters. So I don't think they should revisit settings all the time, but once in a while, it should mostly be new settings, but every once in a while it is nice to kind of come back and, see Florence like in a new setting, in this case being drawn in a comic rather than the games. And I thought it was really cool to see Giovanni Borgia, who, of course, is part of Project Legacy. He's had a huge backstory, like 5 years ago when they did Project Legacy. And so that was really cool the way they included him, and also another link to the Stoddard line of assassins via Charlotte's bloodline. I thought that was a nice touch and generally pretty well executed. I thought the stuff with Giovanni it seemed very carefully woven into his existing story, and a lot of care was taken into it. And I thought the historical story wasn't too ambitious, and I thought it worked out really well. Okay, why don't we move on to the dislikes? I'm going to start off with my big one, and it's going to be Ezio. So Ezio, I love Ezio, and I'm always happy to see Ezio. I have a few issues here, and I'm going to start with some quibbles, and then we'll get into the big one, right? So, first off, Ezio is basically just a cameo in this book. I mean, it's really nice to see him, but honestly, this could have been any other. They could have just said, "Oh, this is the Italian mentor," and there's no real reason for it to be Ezio, honestly. This is a minor quibble. I really don't like the way he's drawn. So generally speaking, I like the art style and the inking and everything throughout the Assassins comics. I haven't really had any quibbles with them, and I think Galena looks great. She's appeared in other media, but something about Ezio, man. Honestly, if the book didn't tell me that this was Ezio, and I had seen this character's there's something about his face, and maybe the fact that his neck is like a tree trunk, or I don't know. It does not look like Ezio. I would not have guessed. If you hadn't told me this was Ezio, I would not have ever thought it was Ezio. It's that different. I know Ezio when I see him, and this is not Ezio, right? And it's weird because it's I don't know. They just didn't really capture the essence of him. Something about the structure of his face. It's hard for me to put my finger on it. But he's also just missing basic things like his lip scar. The lip scar is a really readily identifiable trait of his, and it's literally not present on any of his drawings in here. And it's so weird to me that I don't know. We'll get into the rest of my quibbles with Ezio, but they seem to pay so much like care and attention to something like Giovanni Borgia and like his backstory and this like kind of I don't know what you would call it, like this kind of lore that's really deep into the lore of Project Legacy. Like it's stuff that most regular fans don't even know about. Like they pay so much care and attention to that, and then they kind of mess up Ezio so much. And the big issue I have with Ezio's portrayal in this is that it's 1515. It's about 3 years since the end of Revelations, about 10 years before Ezio passes away, or 9 years, I guess. Ezio is retired. I like the whole point of Assassin's Creed Revelations is that at the end of it, Ezio retires. It's a really, really big moment for him, and it's a really important decision that he makes. And it's not a decision that he makes lightly. It's a really weighty decision. And you know, like Darby has talked about in interviews in the past about Revelations, about one of the big ideas of Assassin's Creed Revelations is you have these 3 different assassins, right? You have Altair, Ezio, and Desmond, and each one of them kind of makes a choice about their life and the Brotherhood. So Ezio sees Altair die devoting his life to the Assassin's Brotherhood, right? In the Masyaf library. And Ezio sees that, decides that's not what he wants for his life, and very emotionally tells me, like, I've seen enough for one life, and you know, removes his armor and retires. It's a really big important moment. And then of course Desmond sees both of them and makes his own decision about to finally come into his own and accept his role as like this modern day assassin, right? And so it's really bothersome to me that Ezio is just so casually training these 2 assassins, and there's no indication whatsoever that like he's acting like he's just not retired, and there's no explanation given for it. The assassins readily call him teacher, and like it's just really frustrating to me. You might remember in Embers, Ezio kind of trained Xiao Jun as well, but you might also remember that Xiao Jun had to fight to get trained, and that Ezio actually turns her away when she first shows up. And I needed something like that. I needed some kind of narrative indication. Like if you are going to put Ezio in here as a mentor role, and like I argued earlier, you don't really need him to be. It's really just a cameo. Then you really need to show why he's doing this when you cannot take this decision that he makes in Revelation so lightly. You need to show why he's decided to not be retired anymore, because it's actually a really big deal. That's my big thing with Ezio. The other stuff, like the fact that he's drawn a little poorly, in my opinion, the fact that he's basically a cameo, those are like a little more forgivable. This is one of the major points of Revelations, and like the thing that caps off his assassin career pretty much. And it really bothered me the way it was handled. And like I said, it's really weird to me that you have something like Giovanni Borgia treated so well, I thought, with regards to his history and the lore and everything. And then Ezio's is kind of like they get so many things wrong, and he's like the most famous character with the richest backstory out of anyone. It's strange to me, and I was disappointed. Okay, so let's move on from Ezio. The other big thing that I was disappointed in, I wouldn't say I disliked it so much as like I feel like it was a big missed opportunity, was Erudito. Erudito has always been this mysterious group organization hiding in the shadows, and I was really excited to finally kind of peel back the curtain. This is our first real look at the people behind Erudito. And I was a little disappointed. I was hoping they would have more of an independent, kind of unique identity. And the way that they're portrayed in Homecoming is they're honestly kind of just like another assassin cell. And Charlotte even says, like, you know, I think we should just merge. And when I read that, I was like, yeah, the way that Erudito is being portrayed right here, I think there's not really much difference between the assassins and Erudito. I think Erudito really needs to be more, they need to be a more independent force in this series. And, you know, I feel like we didn't really get to see any of their specialties, like in hacking. their hacktivist collective. Didn't really I guess my point is we didn't really get to see much of what makes them unique compared to the assassins, right? They make references about, the assassins, the Brotherhood's encryption is like shit or whatever, right? Like they make little offhand references here or there, but they're not like actively, they're just offhand references. They're not actively doing a whole lot that makes it seem like they're erudito, it's hard for me to kind of explain, but I hope you guys get the general idea of what I'm trying to portray. Like, I was expecting a much more independent organization, and it feels like they're just another assassin cell with their own animus. And it's kind of nebulous where they got their money from as well. They have like a ton of stuff that costs a lot of money, and I feel like they could have just made a reference to like, oh yeah, we hacked some bank accounts. Like, I don't know. That's a minor thing with the money. Main thing, I was a little disappointed in how erudito turned out. Final dislike, I'm not crazy about them killing off Joseph. If he is dead, it's a little bit vague on whether he actually dies or not, and I guess we'll see. I thought Joseph was going to be a really interesting character based off his appearance in Trial by Fire, Volume 1, and unfortunately I feel like he wasn't used very much in this volume, and then he just kind of like is more or less killed, I guess. So I was really sad that we didn't get to see more of Joseph. Yeah, that's all I got to say about that. Okay, that's enough ranting from me. What did you guys think, especially with regards to the Ezio stuff? I'm really curious about your opinion. Before we end today's episode, we'll pick up some highlights from last month's video, which of course covered Templars Volume 2, Cross of War. We have a comment here from Andy Auditore, and this is in regards to me talking about the timeless conflict between the Assassins and Templars. He says, I agree the conflict is timeless, but one should learn from both ideologies. There has to be order for the world to function, but people should also be free to choose their own path. Haytham had a great mindset, and he wasn't a bad Templar who would want world domination. Also, Elise and her father, who tried to unify both orders. Too bad they never succeeded. I thought this was a good comment, pointing out, kind of almost like a third way type ideology, which tries to merge the two or kind of split the difference. The only thing I would add to this is that Haytham himself also was a big advocate for unity between the Assassins and Templars, and that's an idea that's not really explored in the games, but if you read Forsaken, Assassin's Creed Forsaken, the novel, and if you read the Assassin's Creed Unity novelization, it actually builds on that. Haytham's desire to kind of find common ground between the Assassins and Templars makes up a huge part of those books. Yeah. And then I'm actually going to squeeze in one more comment here from the Arsenal, who mentions, I feel like you missed that Otso Berg decides right at the end of Cross of War that he is the Templar Order's Black Cross now. And when I read this, I was like, what? And okay, it's not clear to me from that last panel that that's what Otso Berg is saying. I could certainly see an interpretation of that, and I guess we'll see once we hit Uprising, which will be the month after Locust, by the way. If that's what it was meant to convey, I did not get that at all. That was not clear to me at all, especially because in Black Cross, Volume 1 of Templars, he talks about how they need to, they might need the Bolden line of Black Cross again soon, like in the modern day. So, yeah. Oh, thanks for bringing that up, Arsenal. And if that's what it was meant to convey, I totally missed it. So thank you for pointing that out. All right. Thank you, everyone, for joining again for another episode of Assassin's Read. I'll see you next month for Assassin's Creed, Last Descendants Locust, Electric Boogaloo, and let me know what you thought of Homecoming in the comments below, especially about Ezio. Okay, bye!